to my channel. My name is Castellin, and today I am coming to you from my kitchen with a little bit of a spruce up video of this kitchen. It's a small kitchen and there are a bit of things that I don't like about it, most importantly being the color scheme of the kitchen. It's brown and brown and brown everywhere. It's not the color that I would prefer. I feel like the brown makes the kitchen like super dark. Like right now it's daytime, but I have on the hood light, I have on the ceiling light, I have on a ring light, but still the amount of light coming into the kitchen is very little, and I attribute that to the fact that everything is so brown and the colors are so dull. And I've been trying to find ways to brighten it up with the limitations that I have, considering that it's a rented apartment. I thought that I could change this disappointment right here. I hate this grain of countertops so much. I don't know what this material is called. I don't know if this is what you call granite, but I feel like, considering that I have brown here, the tiles are a mix of brown, beige, cream color, which is not too bad. I personally would prefer white tiles, and out of all the things that I can change here is the countertop using contact paper. I have found a color that is seemingly a bit brighter. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but this is the color that I'm going for. Like, already you can just see how much brighter it is. So I feel like this contact paper can make a bit of difference to brighten up the room. The first thing that I need to do before I lay down the contact paper is I need to work on the ceiling around the sink, because it's a bit worn off and I don't want to just put the contact paper over it and then the water will be seeping through. If in case you're wondering why I am not going for the option of putting the contact paper on the cabinet doors, these cabinet doors are not natural wood. This material, I don't know if it's laminate that is placed over the cabinet doors. So what I'm concerned about is, like, when I need to move out, I'll need to peel it off, and I don't know the integrity of this material, so maybe it might rip off when I'm trying to peel it off. So I'm trying not to mess with too much in terms of the apartment. All of the things that I'm going to be using in this video I got from Ace Hardware, except for the contact paper. They didn't have that available in stock, so this I ordered off of Amazon, and I really hope that the quality will hold up. So I really wanted a clean surface to work with. That's why I had to remove parts of the old sealant, especially around the sink. I had noticed in the cabinet right under the sink there was a bit of water leakage coming down. So, and also the sealant was pretty worn out, it was gunky, it was moldy, and the staff at Ace Hardware advised me that the sealant I had bought was pretty easy to apply at home, and true to that, I was able to do it by myself. So I just went on to remove all the old sealant from around the sink. You can see like the black marks on it. It was really gunky. I was using this precision cutter, which I bought from Ace as well, to scrape off the old sealant, and then I just used my kitchen brush to brush away any debris in the gaps between the sink and the countertops. And this is because if you want your sealant to apply properly, based on the videos I saw on YouTube, you have to make sure that the surface is completely clean and dry. And when I had completed brushing everything off, like you can see how gunky that sealant was. After that, I also followed up with a kitchen towel, just squeezing it into those small gaps to make sure that the surface was completely dry so that my sealant will adhere properly. So this is the sealant I'm using. It comes completely airtight, so you have to literally cut off the top, like it doesn't even have a cap. And then, based on the videos I had watched on YouTube, the nozzle that comes with it, you can actually just slice up the tip at a 45-degree angle, and this will make it easier for you to squeeze the sealant into those tiny gaps, because you have to really make sure that the sealant goes in between the gaps. Like, it should not be just applied on top. Hardware, they advised me that I cannot use the sealant without a caulk gun.
so I had to get one, but it was quite affordable. It was only, I believe, 16 dirhams, although I don't know if I'm going to be using it again. But anyway, it's a nice tool to have to add to my toolbox, since I'm always doing something with DIY. So once I had fitted it on the caulk gun, I went ahead to apply it. I was really making sure that as I was squeezing, I'm making sure the sealant goes into that small slit between the sink and the countertop. You probably can't tell from the video because it's sped up like 3 or 4 times, but the process is very slow. You have to take your time and make sure that you direct the nozzle properly to the gaps and squeeze it slowly. And this is the best way to get a tight seal. I was not really worried about the excess because I also saw how to clean that up once I was done. So I just completed the whole perimeter of the sink and a bit of the area around the countertop as well. So to finish it off, I sprayed the sealant with some soapy water, and then I was just using this ice cream stick to clean off the excess sealant. The good thing about this stick, it has a curved edge, so it helped me like not only push the product further into the gap, but also get like a smooth curve on the finished. I don't know how to describe it, but it makes sense just to use something with a curved edge instead of a sharp edge, because the sharp edge will just scrape away all the work that you've just done. Once I was done, I let it cure until the next day. You can barely see the sealant because it's clear, but it's there. Next step was applying the contact paper. The countertop has to be completely clean to avoid any bumps and to make sure that the glue sticks properly. So the two tools that I really needed was a pair of scissors, my precision cutters, and I was also using this old debit card to just help me scrape down the paper as I'm sticking it on. So once I had done a measure of how much I need for this part, I went ahead to start applying it. When applying the contact paper, it's very important to gradually expose the sticky part while you're sticking it down on the surface. Like, you can't remove the whole backing of the paper. You have to work on it bit by bit, just to make sure that you don't make a mess of it or waste the contact paper. So I was working really slowly, really carefully, just making sure I press down, and you have to make sure the paper is properly stretched out to avoid any bubbles. Coming down to the corners like this sharp corner, make sure that it is completely pressed down before you continue with the flat surface. So coming on to the edge of the counter, I just did a quick measure with my eyes and cut off the excess contact paper. I still had to cut off a bit more once I had pressed down the edges all the way. I found that while working on the edges, it's easier to start by pressing down in the middle and then working your way outwards, just to avoid any bubbles or air pockets. So once I had pressed down on the underside of the counter, I went ahead to cut off the excess paper which I didn't need. And the same process applied to the other side of the edge, just cutting and pressing down and cutting off any excess. However, when it came to the edge near the cooker, you'll see in a bit, I actually had to use a spoon to make sure that the contact paper is squeezed all the way under the cabinet, just to avoid it from sticking out.
So I just completed the first panel, and I feel like I did a pretty decent job. Oh no, that's the marble. I thought it was bubbling, but it's not. It's actually okay. Just a little bit over here. I think I did a good job with the first panel. It looks all right. I checked the surface for smoothness and I don't see any bubbles, so it looks good, looking good. I am concerned about the effect of the heat from the stove to this part, so we will see about that. But otherwise, I feel like it's looking good. Now that I see it in contrast with the tile, it's not bad. Like, it's not ideally what I would want in a kitchen in general, but I feel like it looks better than this busy material. Like this looks better. On this side, the silicone is drying out. I will be leaving it to dry for quite some time. I think for the next couple of hours, although there are some parts still, the silicone is clear so you can't see it, but there are some parts which started drying out and looks a bit more like translucent instead of transparent. So now that this part is done, I'm about to head over to this other side. And this other side, I'll be doing it a little bit differently. As you saw from this side, I just rolled out the panel from the edge and then rolled it this way. And that's because I just wanted one continuous piece, especially for this joint here, just to prevent any more water from going into the sealed parts. And then I cut it here because if you can see, there is a demarcation that marks the difference between this side of the countertop and this side. So I just thought I will work on this area when I'm working on the entire sink area. So that's it for this part. This has to dry until tomorrow. I will do that. So I will do this other side, but this other side I will be rolling out contact paper from this end to that end, and then there will be a small gap left in the back there, and I don't mind that gap because on this side I usually store appliances. So it won't show because most of the appliances will be in the front, and then just the continuous contact paper, you'll see it as I work on it.
So coming to this other side, I really wanted a continuous piece of contact paper from one end of the counter to the other because there is no breaks on this countertop. I had this bright idea to use a jar of coins as a weight to hold down the contact paper while I take the measure and start applying on the other end. And I didn't notice that it was actually moving the whole time, and it actually took quite a while before I noticed. So what had happened was the contact paper was applying diagonally across the counter. It was totally lopsided, and this is the moment where I realized the jar was not working. So I had to bring out a ruler and try to cut off a straight edge. Then I could be able to proceed to apply the rest of the contact paper. The reason why I really wanted a continuous piece is because when you overlap the contact paper, it creates a bump on the surface, and like anything hits it, the contact paper will start to peel off like any liquid. So I really didn't want that to happen. However, I was okay with it because that side is where I keep the microwave, so it's not like there's a lot of stuff that goes on that side of the counter. So I completed the other end, same process as well, just pulling off the backing a little bit at a time until I got to the end. I had to make sure also that I really dig into the corners to avoid any air pockets in that end. So the corners has to be like perfectly aligned with the countertop corner. Finishing off the edges was pretty similar to what I did on the other side, just to cut off the excess pieces and then press down from the middle and make sure that the contact paper falls completely under the countertop.
So this is what it's currently looking like. I can feel like the place is already 10 times brighter than it was before. Like it makes such a difference to have this contact paper. Of course, I haven't finished this side because I did the caulk, the sealant, and it's coming along well. I can't help but touch it. I'm too curious. There is such a stark contrast between that and just this. Like this is so much better, it's so much brighter. The brown marble veins on the paper match with the doors, so I think that looks good. I was thinking on starting on the floor, like it's so messy now because I've been stepping all over it, but I'm feeling a bit tired, so I'll leave that for tomorrow. So that's where I'm stopping for now. Good morning, welcome back. So today I want to start working on the floor in the kitchen. Full discretion, it has been a couple of days since I did the countertops, actually more than a week to be more exact. The countertops are looking fine. There are a few areas which I had a problem with, especially around the sink, but now I want to get to working on the floor, the grout and everything, and then the kitchen will be complete, my tiny project. So let's get right to work. So this is the stuff I'm going to be using. I have this scraper, the grout that I'm going to be using, and then I got out some gloves. Ideally you're supposed to be using a thick glove, but I have only these cooking gloves, and that's what I'm going to be using, and then this rag for wiping off the excess grout. This was a recommendation from one of the floor staff, so I hope, because it's recommended for DIY, so I hope that it will be easy to use. So let's see how that goes. I did a lot of Googling, so I think I have an idea of what I need to do.
I started by using this grout cleaner and brightener to remove most of the staining on the grout. As you can see from the before, it was really dark and stained. And then once I had used the grout cleaner, there was a bit of improvement, but not where it was supposed to be. Like, it was still gray and stained, and that's why I was reapplying the grout to make it all the same color and even. Not me thinking that this grout was like toothpaste. I actually thought it had dried out, like it was really hard to squeeze. I had to use both hands. Once I had gotten the hang of it and knew how much pressure I had to apply, it was much easier to do. So the staff at Ace actually advised me that I should use my fingers to push in the grout between the seams of the tiles to make sure that it adheres properly. So that's what I'm doing with the fingers, and that's why I needed to put on the gloves. So once I have pushed it in completely, I just came back with the scrapers to remove the excess. Although I didn't do this process throughout the floor, because I realized, like, if I scrape too close to the grout, I was actually taking some of it off. So I just let it dry on there, and then I cleaned it up once it was dry. I was actually looking into purchasing a grout pen, because that is what I saw most people were using, but they were completely out of stock at Ace, so that's why I ended up with this grout, which was not bad because it actually helped to bring all the tiles at same surface level. Like, there were some places where the grout was really chipped off in between the tiles. So with this, I was getting a much more even surface and filling in the parts which the grout was pretty much damaged completely. And this is what it looks like once I was done. So I didn't do the whole process of scraping out precisely near each and every grout line. I let it dry for at least, I think it stayed like that for about 2 days before I came to do the final cleanup. But I was already so happy with the results. The potential was looking great. And this was 2 days later when I came in with the steam mop. The grout had completely settled, like it was not coming off at all. The excess grout on the tiles completely wiped out, like the tiles almost looked polished, and the floor looked exactly like what I wanted it to look like.